Hello, my name is Fernanda, and first of all, I'd like to say thank you for the opportunity of being here in this conference. It's such a pleasure for me to be here talking about a topic that I like so much and that's been very helpful in my research. And sharing this with you guys, it's going to be an amazing experience, and I hope I can help you too in your research. So, today, I will be talking a little bit about the sensitive period of language and the importance of preparation for child's language development. And to start, I will talk a little bit about myself. So, as I told you, my name is Fernanda. I'm from Brazil. I have a degree in pedagogy, and now I'm studying in a master degree program of language science in the south of Brazil too. I have been teaching kindergarten since 2012, and I have been a pedagogical coordinator too in a bilingual school. And nowadays, I'm just working as a researcher and studying for my master degree, and doing some speech and writing some articles to help me during my research as well. And my research is most part of the time is in language acquisition and pedagogy, speech analysis, language acquisition, and childhood. Here, I also bring two of the main books that I use to guide my presentation today and to guide the article of this presentation. So Montessori has been my best author that is helping me a lot during my research. And today I would like to share a little bit of my research based on Montessori. So here we have two pictures. This little girl is me in, I think, around 1996. And in the other picture, it's me as well and my students in 2020. So why I chose these pictures to start our conversation today? This little girl, she had the dream of being a teacher too, and but at the same time, I could see in myself someone who always loved education, loved school, and this dream was much beyond that. And when I became a teacher in the second picture, like actually I was been teaching, I think around like 10 years in this picture. But there, these teachers, since I was working with kindergarten for a long time and seeing many children learning how to speak, I started to ask myself some questions about language acquisition. And since I worked in a bilingual school and I was most part of the time teaching in English as well, not only in Portuguese, that is my first language, I started asking, how does it work? And how can we help children? Since like our first language is not something teachable, we need to be in contact with that. Like children learn their first language, like being in contact with other people, being in contact with adults. So I started wondering some questions, and I'd like to invite you to see these questions and to brainstorm about them too. But first, before I ask you these questions, I'd like to say a Montessori sentence because before we understand what is and how it happens, the language acquisition, we need to understand what is language, right? And when we study about language science, we see many definitions in many different types of uh, studies and in pedagogy and in literature. But this definition for me as a teacher, as a kindergarten teacher, has helped me a lot, and I will explain why too. So Montessori said the language determines the environment's transformation, which we call civilization. And why, right? Why that helps me a lot. As a kindergarten teacher, we have the not the obligation, I don't like this word, but we have an invitation to welcome children into society. And inside of school, teach kids learn how to interact with each other, how our society works, how important it's for us to understand how we deal with people in our daily routine. So language is not a tool, but it's something that constitutes us, but at the same time, it makes us to become a person in society, into society. It invites us for that too. So this concept helps us to understand how important is kindergarten for children and how language is used not only there, but they're like uh, start moment, right? The beginning for children and welcoming for children into society. But as I told you at the beginning, how is the language acquisition process in the child? So, who has contacts with children? If you work with children, if you're a teacher, if you're a mom, a dad, or if you have children in your family, you might have wondered how does it work, right? Because if you think how adults learn a second language, it's a different process. We learn, we study, we can go to another country where this person, like where people there speaks this language. But our first language is not like this, and it's not something that we can teach a baby. Babies learn in a way that is only for themselves. And Maria Montessori, she has wondering about that too. And she has developed a theory. This image here can describe a little bit of her theory. This image is from a very nice Montessori website called the Montessori Family. And she said that children has sensitive periods where they are open to learn some specific things. And as we can see in this image, language is something that the child is much more available, let's say, to learn between 0 to 6 years old. That is basically kindergarten time. But anyway, and here we have many other things that she says too, and there are more. But for example, movement around 0 to 5, small objects, refinement of the senses, and so on. But today we're going to talk a little bit about language. And this is super interesting because as a kindergarten teacher, I am used to teach this age. So language acquisition for kindergarten students doesn't happen only in their houses with their families. It happens at school too. And there is a very nice sentence that I would like that is, it has guided me through my the question, right, of my research, and I would like you to invite you to reflect about it too. So here is written that the attention given to this topic, the language acquisition, leads us to consider that it is the child who absorbs the language. The reality of this absorption is something great and mysterious, which mean, sorry, which men do not consider enough, sorry. So which people do not consider enough. It's often said children live among people who talk, and that is why they talk. So children Montessori said that they are like sponges. And since they are in the environment with people talking, seeing how adults and older children speaks, they learn how to talk. They absorb this language, right? And during this moment, like since they are prepared for that, this is something supernatural, and that's why we will never speak another language like we speak our first language. For example, my first language is Portuguese, and my Portuguese is perfect. And here I'm speaking in English, and even though I have learned English, my English will never be as good as my Portuguese because I learned that when I was a baby. And Montessori that says that it's because, right, I have been in contact with this language since I was a baby. So, but okay, we have talked about language, we have talked about Montessori theory, but how can can I help children, right? As I told you, as a teacher, and seeing them developing their language, right? Learning new words, learning new expressions, and saying things that we say, oh, how do they know that, right? I have always wondered how I could help them as a teacher, since as teachers, we learn that we are made to teach them. And our first language is not something that we can teach. It's something that I can help them, something that I can guide them through it, but I can't teach them, right? And Montessori says about two important things. There is about the prepared adult and the prepared environment for the child, for the children. And what is that? What is a prepared adult, right? Us as adults, we are used to think that like since we are older, we know everything. We have been here for more time and we need to teach our children to do things, right? But much more than that, we as teachers, as parents, we are much more um, important in our children's life as models, right? As role models. And I would like to talk a little bit about that too. So, uh, in the Montessori theory, we have some topics that we can see that invite us to reflect about how we can help children to acquire language, to absorb this language in a better way, to be there to be their supports, and not to be the fountain of knowledge, right? Where they're not to teach them something, but to show them many things, to be like they can need to look at us and see us as mirrors. And for that, I put some topics here. There is from the Montessori theory too. For example, the comprehension of the world through the child's eyes. So first of all, we need to understand that a child is a child, and they just came into this world, and they are like analyzing everything. They are seeing everything like from new. Everything is new for them. So when we are talking to a child, we need to understand that we need to show them real world, right? To show them real life. And this is a way for us to show them, like when we talk about language, to show them how we speak thoroughly, right? So we need to speak with them like clearly, with words we use every day. We need to be there talking to them since they are babies, for them to be used to that. Like that will be our a part of our lives and their lives too. They prepare the environment. So a child as like us, we need to have an appropriate environment. And for children, they need to have independence. So when we have a proper environment, a classroom where they can discover new things, they can be safe in there. They can explore many objects, many things. They can go to places with lots of nature, for example. These kind of places will incentivize them to learn new words, to see things through it, right? And the same thing in the adult speech. So when we are talking, that is really related to the first one. When we are talking to them, we are teaching them how to talk, right? As Montessori says in that sentence, when we are talking with them, right, they learning like when if we are talking. So we need to be a model for that for them too. There is the fourth one, so being a role model. The next one that for me as a teacher, a kindergarten teacher, is one of the most important. They need to be autonomous. They need to have autonomy, right? They need to learn through their own path, through their own time. And they need to be independent for that. They need to have autonomy to learn, to go through new things. Of course, we'll be there, we'll be like taking care of them, they will feel safe, but they need to do that by themselves because we learn, we acquire language by ourselves, right? And as the same thing, we need to understand the language acquisition is a child's own process. So these are six topics that are brought from this research as a result, as a way for us to reflect of our teaching practice, right? As our responsibility as adults with kids around us. And as a conclusion, to answer my question, like how kids learn, how kids acquire language, and how we can help them as prepared adults, Montessori says, right in her book, The Discovery of the Child, that the education process is shared by the teacher and the environment. That's why it's so important. And that is that materials and the teacher coexist and cooperate for the education of the child and the language acquisition as well. And the same happens at home. So for families, that happens too. So when we refer to language, we must always keep in mind that it begins, long before school. So at home, when they are babies and parents are talking to them, they are already in this language acquisition process. Therefore, as educators and helpers of the children's insertion in society, it's our duty to raise awareness and support the entire community to help children in this language acquisition development. So as a kindergarten teacher, since I started this research, I have been spread it, like how we can create a space, like a prepared environment, and being a prepared adult to give autonomy to children to acquire language and to find out this thing that we call language, that is something that constitute us as a person in society. Thank you so much.